Hello friends, if you want to watch super hit movie Shrek in English, then you must like this video. If you are visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Friends, in today's video, the movie we're going to talk about is called Shrek. We will talk about what this movie is and where you can watch it, all the interesting facts about this movie in today's video. I'm going to tell you, I'm also going to give you all the information on which OTT platform or on which satellite channel you will watch this movie. Also, we will talk in detail about the technical department, music department, pre-production, filming, post-production, budget, box office, collection of this film. We will also talk the story of this film, and I will also give you a small review of the story of this film. Apart from this, we will discuss about the facts of this film, storyline, star cast, actors' performance in the film, and which character has played which role. That's why I request you friends to watch this video till the end. So start the video. Shrek is a 2001 American animated fantasy comedy film loosely based on the 1990 children's picture book by William Steig, directed by Andrew Adamson and Vicky Jenson in their feature directorial debuts, and written by Ted Elliott, Terry Rossio, Joe Stillman, and Roger S.H. Schulman. It is the first installment in the Shrek film series. The film stars Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and John Lithgow. In the film, an embittered ogre named Shrek, Myers, finds his home in the swamp, overrun by fairy tale creatures, banished by the obsessive ruler Lord Farquaad, Lithgow. With the help of Donkey, Murphy, Shrek makes a pact with Farquaad to rescue Princess Fiona, Diaz, in exchange for regaining control of his swamp. After purchasing the rights to Steig's book in 1991, Steven Spielberg sought to produce a traditionally animated film adaptation, but John H. Williams convinced him to bring the project to the newly founded DreamWorks in 1994. Jeffrey Katzenberg, along with Williams and Aron Warner, began development on Shrek in 1995, immediately following the studio's purchase of the rights from Spielberg. Chris Farley was cast as the voice for the title character, recording most of the required dialogue, but died in 1997 before his work on the film was finished. Myers was hired to replace him and gave Shrek his Scottish accent. The film was initially intended to be created using motion capture, but after poor test results, the studio hired Pacific Data Images to complete the final computer animation. Shrek parodies other fairy tale adaptations, primarily animated Disney films. Shrek premiered at the Man Village Theater in Westwood and was later shown at the 2001 Cannes Film Festival, where it competed for the Palme d'Or, making it the first animated film since Disney's Peter Pan 1953 to be chosen to do so. The film was theatrically released by DreamWorks Pictures in the United States on May 18, 2001, and grossed over $492 million worldwide, becoming the fourth highest-grossing film of 2001. It was widely praised by critics for its animation, voice performances, soundtrack, writing, and humor, which they noted catered to both adults and children. Shrek was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay and won the first Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. The film's major success helped establish DreamWorks Animation as a competitor to Pixar in feature film computer animation. 3 sequels have been released: Shrek 2, 2004, Shrek the Third, 2007, and Shrek Forever After, 2010, along with 2 spin-off films, Puss in Boots, 2011, and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, 2022, with other productions, notably Shrek 5, in development. It is also regarded as one of the most influential animated films of the 2000s and one of the greatest animated films ever made. The United States Library of Congress selected Shrek for preservation in the National Film Registry in 2020, becoming the first animated film of the 21st century to be preserved. Plot: Shrek is an antisocial and highly territorial ogre who loves the solitude of his swamp and enjoys fending off mobs and intruders. His life is interrupted after the dwarfish Lord Farquaad of Duloc exiles a vast number of fairy tale creatures, who inadvertently end up in the swamp. Angered by the intrusion, Shrek decides to visit Farquaad and demand him to move the creatures elsewhere. Shrek reluctantly allows a talkative donkey, whom he saved from Farquaad's guards before, to tag along and guide him to Duloc. Meanwhile, Farquaad is presented with the magic mirror, who tells him that he must marry a princess in order to become king. Farquaad chooses Princess Fiona, who is imprisoned in a castle guarded by a dragon. Unwilling to rescue Fiona himself, he organizes a tournament in which the winner will receive the privilege of performing the task on his behalf. When Shrek and Donkey arrive at Duloc, Farquaad announces that whoever kills Shrek will win the tournament. However, Shrek and Donkey defeat Farquaad's knights with relative ease. Amused, Farquaad proclaims them champions and agrees to relocate the fairy tale creatures if Shrek rescues Fiona. Shrek and Donkey travel to the castle and are attacked by the dragon. Shrek locates Fiona, who is appalled by his lack of romanticism. They flee the castle after rescuing Donkey from the dragon, who's revealed to be female and has fallen in love with him. When Shrek removes his helmet and reveals he is an ogre, Fiona stubbornly refuses to go to Duloc, demanding Farquaad arrive in person to save her. Shrek carries Fiona against her will. That night, after setting up camp, and with Fiona alone in a cave, Shrek admits to Donkey that he is antisocial because he grew frustrated after being constantly judged for his appearance. Fiona overhears this and decides to be more kind to Shrek. The next day, the three are harassed by Robin Hood and his band of merry men, but Fiona easily defeats them in physical combat. Shrek becomes impressed with Fiona, and they begin to fall in love. When the trio nears Duloc, Fiona takes shelter in a windmill for the evening. Donkey later enters alone and discovers that Fiona has transformed into an ogre. She explains that during her childhood, she was cursed to transform into an ogre at night, but retain her human form during the day. She tells Donkey that only true love's kiss will break the spell and change her to love's true form. Meanwhile, Shrek is about to confess his feelings to Fiona, when he overhears Fiona referring to herself as an ugly beast. But believing that she is talking about him, Shrek angrily leaves and returns the next morning with Farquaad. Confused and hurt by Shrek's abrupt hostility, Fiona accepts Farquaad's marriage proposal and requests that they be married today before sunset. Shrek angrily dismisses Donkey and returns to his now vacated swamp, but quickly realizes that he feels miserable without Fiona. Donkey appears, scolding Shrek for his bad behavior and for jumping to conclusions. He even tells Shrek that Fiona was not referring to him as an ugly beast, but covers up the answer that it was herself. The two reconcile and Donkey encourages Shrek to express his love to Fiona. They quickly travel to Duloc by riding the dragon, whom Donkey has befriended. Shrek interrupts the wedding just before the ceremony ends and tells Fiona that Farquaad is only marrying her to become king. The sun sets as Fiona transforms into an ogre in front of everyone, causing Shrek to understand Fiona's previous remarks. Outraged and disgusted, Farquaad orders Shrek executed and Fiona re-imprisoned, so that he will still be king by technicality. The two are saved when the dragon, ridden by Donkey, breaks in and devours Farquaad. Shrek and Fiona profess their love and share a kiss. Fiona's curse is broken. She is surprised to find she has remained an ogre, though Shrek reassures her that he still finds her beautiful. They marry in the swamp with the fairy tale creatures in attendance, then leave for their honeymoon. Voice cast, main article, list of Shrek franchise characters. Mike Myers, Shrek, one of the three blind mice. Eddie Murphy as Donkey. Cameron Diaz as Princess Fiona. John Lithgow as Lord Farquaad. Vincent Cassel as Monsieur Robin Hood. Conrad Vernon as Gingerbread Man. Chris Miller as Magic Mirror. Geppetta. Cody Cameron, Pinocchio. The Three Little Pigs. Simon J. Smith as Blind Mouse. Christopher Knights as Thelonious, one of the three blind mice. Aaron Warner as Big Bad Wolf. Jim Cummings as Captain of the Guards. Kathleen Freeman as Old Woman. Andrew Adamson as Duloc Mascot. Bobby Block as Baby Bear from The Three Bears. Michael Galasso as Peter Pan. Production, development. See also Shrek I Feel Good animation test. At the time DreamWorks Pictures was founded, producer John H. Williams got hold of the book from his children, and when he brought it to DreamWorks, it caught CEO Jeffrey Katzenberg's attention, and the studio decided to make it into a film. Recounting the inspiration of making the film, Williams said, "Every development deal starts with a pitch, and my pitch came from my then kindergartner in collaboration with his preschool brother. Upon our second reading of Shrek, the kindergartner started quoting large segments of the book, pretending he could read them. Even as an adult, I thought Shrek was outrageous, irreverent, iconoclastic, gross, and just a lot of fun. He was a great movie character in search of a movie. After buying the rights to the film, Katzenberg quickly put it in active development in November 1995. Steven Spielberg had thought about making a traditionally animated film adaptation of the book before, when he bought the rights to the book in 1991 before the founding of DreamWorks, where Bill Murray would play Shrek and Steve Martin would play Donkey. In the beginning of production, co-director Andrew Adamson refused to be intimidated by Katzenberg and had an argument with him about how much the film should appeal to adults. Katzenberg wanted both audiences, but he deemed some of Adamson's ideas, such as adding sexual jokes and Guns N' Roses music to the soundtrack, to be too outrageous. Adamson and Kelly Asbury joined in 1997 to co-direct the film. However, Asbury left a year later for work on the 2002 film Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, and was replaced with story artist Vicky Jenson, although Asbury would later co-direct the sequel. Both Adamson and Jenson decided to work on the film in half, so the crew could at least know whom to go to with specific detail questions about the film's sequences. "We both ended up doing a lot of everything," Adamson said. "We're both kind of control freaks, and we both wanted to do everything." Some early sketches of Shrek's house were done between 1996 and 1997 using Photoshop, with the sketches showing Shrek first living in a garbage dump near a human village called Wart Creek. It was also thought at one time that he would live with his parents and keep rotting fish in his bedroom. Donkey was modeled after Pericles, born 1994, also known as Perry, a real miniature donkey from Barron Park in Palo Alto, California. Ramon Hui, supervising animator of Shrek, stated that Fiona wasn't based on any real person, and he did many different sketches for her. He had done over 100 sculptures of Fiona before the directors chose the final design. In early development, the art directors visited Hearst Castle, Stratford-upon-Avon, and Dordogne for inspiration. Art director Douglas Rogers visited a magnolia plantation in Charleston, South Carolina, for inspiration of Shrek's swamp. Planned characters not used in the film include Goldilocks and Sleeping Beauty. Writing: the screenplay was written by Ted Elliott, Terry Rossio, Joe Stillman, and Roger S. H. Schulman, loosely based on the picture book by William Steig. The way Steig upended fairy tale conventions in the original book by making an ogre the protagonist formed the basis for the movie being a parody of fairy tales. Elliott and Rossio began writing for the film in 1997 and worked on the project for 2 years. They centered the 4 main characters' personalities on maladaptive responses to self-esteem issues. As the DreamWorks story crew developed the plot, their personalities remained the same, ensuring the thematic unity of the story was preserved. When the studio leaned towards Shrek being a kind person shunned for being an ogre, they pushed for Shrek to remain a misanthropic anti-hero. Nicolas Cage was initially offered the role of Shrek, but he turned it down because he did not want to look like an ogre. In 2013, Cage explained, "When you're drawn, in a way it says more about how children are going to see you than anything else, and I so care about that." Chris Farley was initially hired to voice Shrek, and he had recorded nearly all of the dialogue for the character, but died before completing the project. According to David Spade, Farley only had 5 days left of voice work, and Farley's brother John was asked if he would come in and finish his lines, but John refused. A story reel featuring a sample of Farley's recorded dialogue was leaked to the public in August 2015. DreamWorks then recast the voice role to Mike Myers, who insisted on a complete script rewrite to leave no traces of Farley's version of Shrek. According to Myers, he wanted to voice the character for 2 reasons. "I wanted the opportunity to work with Jeffrey Katzenberg, and the book is a great story about accepting yourself for who you are." After Myers had completed providing the voice for the character over the course of 1999 and the film was well into production, a rough cut of the movie was shown to him in February 2000. Myers asked to re-record all of his lines with a Scottish accent, similar to that his mother used when she told him bedtime stories and also used for his roles in other films, such as So I Married an Axe Murderer and Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. According to the DVD commentary, he had also tried using a Lothar of the Hill People accent and a Canadian accent. After hearing the alternative, Katzenberg agreed to redo scenes in the film, saying, "It was so good we took $4 million worth of animation out and did it again." Myers disputed the cost, saying it didn't cost the studio millions of dollars, as rumored. "What it meant is instead of me going in for 10 sessions, I went in for 20 sessions. I got paid the same." Because of Myers voicing the character, more ideas began to come. There were clearer story points, fresher gags, and comedy bits. "I got a letter from Spielberg thanking me so much for caring about the character," Myers said, and he said the Scottish accent had improved the movie. Another person planned to voice a character in the film was Janeane Garofalo, who was set to star alongside Farley as Princess Fiona. However, she was fired from the project for unexplained reasons. Years later, Garofalo stated, "I was never told why I was fired. I assume because I sound like a man sometimes. I don't know why. Nobody told me. But the movie didn't do anything, so who cares?" Animation. Shrek was originally set up to be a live-action CG animation hybrid, with background plate miniature sets and the main characters composited into the scene as motion-captured computer graphics, using an Expert Vision Hire's Falcon 10 camera system to capture and apply realistic human movement to the characters. Soft image was used, as well as mental ray. A sizable crew was hired to run a test, and after a year and a half of R&D, the test was finally screened in May 1997. The results were not satisfactory, with Katzenberg stating, "It looked terrible, it didn't work, it wasn't funny, and we didn't like it." The animation wasn't released publicly until 2023, when it was posted by production designer Barry E. Jackson on his YouTube channel. The studio then turned to its production partners at Pacific Data Images, PDI, who began production with the studio in 1998-51 and helped Shrek get to its final, computer-animated look. At this time, Ants was still in production at the studio, and effects supervisor Ken Bielenberg was asked by Aron Warner to start development for Shrek. Similar to previous PDI films, PDI used its own proprietary software, like the Fluid Animation System, for its animated movies. For some elements, however, it also took advantage of some of the powerhouse animation software on the market. This is particularly true with Maya, which PDI used for most of its dynamic cloth animation and for the hair of Fiona and Farquaad. "We did a lot of work on character and setup, and then kept changing the setup while we were doing the animation," Hui noted. "In Ants, we had a facial system that gave us all the facial muscles under the skin. In Shrek, we applied that to whole body. So if you pay attention to Shrek when he talks, you see that when he opens his jaw, he forms a double chin, because we have the fat and the muscles underneath. That kind of detail took us a long time to get right." One of the most difficult parts of creating the film was making Donkey's fur flow smoothly so that it did not look like that of a chia pet. This fell into the hands of the surfacing animators, who used flow controls within a complex shader to provide the fur with many attributes, ability to change directions, lie flat, swirl, etc. It was then the job of the visual effects group, led by Ken Bielenberg, to make the fur react to environment conditions. Once the technology was mastered, it could be applied to many aspects of the movie, including grass, moss, beards, eyebrows, and even threads on Shrek's tunic. Making human hair realistic was different from Donkey's fur, requiring a separate rendering system and much attention from the lighting and visual effects teams. Shrek has 31 sequences, with 1,288 total shots. Aron Warner said that the creators envisioned a magical environment that you could immerse yourself into. Shrek includes 36 separate in-film locations to make the world of the film, which DreamWorks claimed was more than any previous computer-animated feature. In-film locations were finalized, and as demonstrated by past DreamWorks animated movies, color and mood was of the utmost importance. The animation was completed in 2000. Music. Main article, Shrek, music from the original motion picture. Shrek is the third DreamWorks animated film, and the only film in the Shrek series, to have Harry Gregson Williams team up with John Powell to compose the score following Ants, 1998, and Chicken Run, 2000. Powell was left out to compose scores for later Shrek films with Gregson Williams due to a conflict. The score was recorded at Abbey Road Studios by Nick Wallage and Slam Andrews, with the latter mixing it at Media Ventures and Patricia Sullivan Fourstar handling mastering. Shrek introduced a new element to give the film a unique feel. The film used pop music and other oldies to make the story more forward. Covers of songs like On the Road Again and Try a Little Tenderness were integrated in the film's score. The band's Smash Mouth's song All Star gained massive popularity after its original release 2 years earlier due to its usage in the film's opening credits. As the film was about to be completed, Katzenberg suggested to the filmmakers to redo the film's ending to go out with a big laugh. Instead of ending the film with just a storybook closing over Shrek and Fiona as they ride off into the sunset, they decided to add a song, I'm a Believer, covered by Smash Mouth, and show all the fairy tale creatures in the film. Although Rufus Wainwright's version of the song, Hallelujah, appeared in the soundtrack album, it was John Cale's version that appeared in the film. In a radio interview, Rufus Wainwright suggested that his version of Hallelujah did not appear in the film due to the glass ceiling he was hitting because of his sexuality. An alternative explanation is that, although the filmmakers wanted Cale's version for the film, licensing issues prevented its use in the soundtrack album because Wainwright was an artist for DreamWorks, but Cale was not. The film's 1996 animation test used the song I Got You, I Feel Good. The clip was considered lost until 2023. Cultural references. In many places, the film references classic movies, predominantly those by Disney. When Tinkerbell falls on Donkey and he says, I can fly, and people around, including the three little pigs, say, he can fly, this is a reference to Disney's Peter Pan. Donkey then says, while still flying, you might have seen a house fly, maybe even a superfly, but I bet you ain't never seen a donkey fly. This scene is a reference to the Disney film Dumbo. The scene where Fiona is singing to the blue bird is a reference to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The transformation scene at the end of the film references Disney's Beauty and the Beast. When Shrek crosses the bridge to the castle and says, that'll do, donkey, that'll do, this is a reference to the movie Babe. The scene where Princess Fiona is fighting the Merry Men is a lengthy reference to the film The Matrix. At the end of the film, the gingerbread man at the end with a crutch and one leg says, God bless us everyone, which is a reference to Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol. In the scene where the magic mirror gives Lord Farquaad the option to marry 3 princesses, it parodies popular American television show The Dating Game, featuring Cinderella and Snow White. In addition, Lord Farquaad's theme park-style kingdom, Duloc, heavily mimics Disneyland, even insofar as parodying the famous It's a Small World musical ride in the scene with the singing puppets. It has been suggested that Lord Farquaad himself is an unflattering parody of then Disney CEO Michael Eisner, whom producer Katzenberg reportedly dislikes. Release marketing. In 2000, IMAX released Cyberworld onto its branded large-screen theaters. It was a compilation film that featured stereoscopic conversions of various animated shorts and sequences, including the bar sequence in Ants. DreamWorks was so impressed by the technology used for the sequence's stereoscopic translation that the studio and IMAX decided to plan a big-screen 3D version of Shrek. The film would have been re-released during the Christmas season of 2001 or the following summer, after its conventional 2D release. The re-release would have also included new sequences and an alternate ending. Plans for this was dropped due to creative changes instituted by DreamWorks and resulted in a loss of $1.18 million, down from IMAX's profit of $3.24 million. Radio Disney was told not to allow any ads for the film to air on the station, stating, due to recent initiatives with the Walt Disney Company, we are being asked not to align ourselves promotionally with this new release Shrek. Stations may accept spot dollars only in individual markets. The restriction was later relaxed to allow ads for the film's soundtrack album onto the network. On May 7, 2001, Burger King began promotions for the film, giving out a selection of 9 exclusive candy caddies based on the Shrek characters in Big Kids Meal and Kids Meal orders. Ice cream chain Baskin-Robbins also ran an 8-week promotion of the film, selling products such as Shrek's Hot Sludge Sundae, a combination of Oreo cookies and cream ice cream, hot fudge, crushed chocolate cookies, whipped cream, and squiggly gummy worms, and Shrek freeze-frame cake, featuring an image of Shrek and Donkey framed by sunflowers. This was to support the film's DVD VHS release. Home media. Shrek was released by DreamWorks Home Entertainment on VHS and DVD on November 2, 2001. It surpassed Star Wars Episode I, The Phantom Menace's short-lived record for being the fastest-selling DVD title of all time, selling 2.5 million copies within the first 3 days of release. Another 4.5 million copies were sold on VHS in the same time span, making it the biggest opening weekend in retail video since The Lion King in 1995. Both releases included Shrek in the Swamp Karaoke Dance Party, a 3-minute musical short film that takes up right after Shrek's ending, with film's characters performing a medley of modern pop songs. As for the DVD release, this 2-disc set features a full-screen format on the first disc and a widescreen format on the second disc, with the latter featuring a DTS audio track. Coincidentally, the film was released on video the same day that Pixar's Monsters, Inc. hit theaters. Since videos were traditionally released on Tuesdays, Disney's executives did not receive this well, saying that the move seemed like an underhanded attempt to siphon off some of their film's steam. DreamWorks responded that it simply shifted the release to a Friday to make it more of an event, and predicted that it and other studios would do so more frequently with important films. Monsters, Inc. earned that weekend more than $62 million, breaking the record for an animated film, while Shrek's video release made more than $100 million and eventually became the biggest-selling DVD at the time, with over 5.5 million sales. This broke the record previously held by Gladiator, another DreamWorks film. Shrek generated more than $420 million in revenue for DreamWorks on DVD and VHS and has sold more than 21 million copies of the 23 million shipped by January 2002. Worldwide, more than 10 million Shrek DVDs have been sold by that point. A 3D version of the film was released on Blu-ray 3D by Paramount Home Entertainment on December 1, 2010, along with its sequels, and a regular 2D Blu-ray box set of the series was released 6 days later. In commemoration of the film's 20th anniversary, an Ultra HD Blu-ray edition was released on May 11, 2021, by Universal Pictures Home Entertainment. Reception. Box office. Shrek opened on around 6,000 screens, 85, across 3,587 theaters. 11 of them showed the film digitally. This was the first time that DreamWorks had shown one of its films digitally. The film earned $11.6 million on its first day and $42.3 million on its opening weekend, topping the box office for the weekend and averaging $11,805 from 3,587 theaters. In its second weekend, due to the Memorial Day weekend holiday, the film gained 0.3% to $42.5 million and $55.2 million over the 4-day weekend, resulting in an overall 30% gain. Despite this, the film finished in second place behind Pearl Harbor and had an average of $15,240 from expanding to 3,623 sites. In its third weekend, the film retreated 34% to $28.2 million, for a 7,695 average from expanding to 3,661 theaters. By mid-June 2001, Shrek became the top-grossing movie of the year domestically, defeating The Mummy Returns. This achievement would last until that December, when it was beaten by Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. The film closed on December 6, 2001, after grossing $267.7 million domestically, along with $216.7 million overseas, for a worldwide total of $484.4 million. Produced on a $60 million budget, the film was a huge box office smash and is the fourth highest-grossing film of 2001. Shrek became the highest-grossing animated film ever to be released in Australia, passing the mark set by The Lion King in 1994. In the United Kingdom, Shrek regained the top spot at the British box office after being beaten out the previous week by Lara Croft Tomb Raider, earning a $20.3 million since its opening in the UK. Critical response. In addition to being an instant box office success, Shrek received wide critical acclaim. 88% of 213 professional reviews of the film on the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes are positive, with an average rating of 7.810. The website's critical consensus reads, "While simultaneously embracing and subverting fairy tales, the irreverent Shrek also manages to tweak Disney's nose, provide a moral message to children, and offer viewers a funny, fast-paced ride." Metacritic assigned Shrek a weighted average score of 84 out of 100 based on 34 critics, indicating universal acclaim. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of A on an A+ to F scale. Roger Ebert praised the film, giving it 4 stars out of a possible 4, and describing it as jolly and wicked, filled with sly in jokes, and yet somehow possessing a heart. USA Today's Susan Loshchina praised Eddie Murphy's performance, stating it gives the comic performance of his career, aided by sensational digital artistry, as he brays for the slightly neurotic Motormouth. Richard Schickel of Time also enjoyed Murphy's role, stating, "No one has ever made a funnier jackass of himself than Murphy." Peter Rayner of New York Magazine liked the script, also stating, "The animation, directed by Andrew Adamson and Vicky Jenson, is often on the same wriggly, giggly level as the script, although the more human characters, such as Princess Fiona and Lord Farquaad, are less interesting than the animals and creatures, a common pitfall in animated films of all types." Peter Travers of Rolling Stone wrote, "Shrek is a world-class charmer that could even seduce the Academy when it hands out the first official animation Oscar next year." James Berardinelli of Real Views gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4, saying, "Shrek is not a guilty pleasure for sophisticated moviegoers. It is, purely and simply, a pleasure." Kenneth Turan of the Los Angeles Times wrote, "The witty, fractured fairy tale Shrek has a solid base of clever writing." Lisa Schwartzbaum of Entertainment Weekly gave the film an A-, saying, "A kind of palace coup, a shout of defiance, and a coming of age for DreamWorks." Jay Boyar of the Orlando Sentinel wrote, "It's a pleasure to be able to report that the movie both captures and expands upon the book's playful spirit of deconstruction." Stephen Rosen of the Denver Post wrote, "DreamWorks Pictures again proves a name to trust for imaginative, funny animated movies that delight kids and adults equally." Susan Stark of the Detroit News gave the film 4 out of 4 stars, saying, "Swift, sweet, irreverent, rangy, and as spirited in the writing and voice work as it is splendid in design." Jamie Bernard of the New York Daily News gave the film 4 out of 4 stars, saying, "The brilliance of the voice work, script, direction, and animation all serve to make Shrek an adorable, infectious work of true sophistication." Renee Rodriguez gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, calling it a gleefully fractured fairy tale that never becomes cynical or crass. Elvis Mitchell of the New York Times gave the film 4 out of 5 stars, saying, "Beating up on the irritatingly dainty Disney trademarks is nothing new. It's just that it has rarely been done with the demolition derby zest of Shrek." William Steig, the author of the original book, and his wife Jean Steig also enjoyed the film, stating, "We all went sort of expecting to hate it, thinking, what has Hollywood done to it? But we loved it. We were afraid it would be too sickeningly cute, and instead, Bill just thought they did a wonderful, witty job of it." John Anderson of Newsday wrote, "The kind of movie that will entertain everyone of every age and probably for ages to come." Jay Carr of the Boston Globe wrote, "In an era when much on film seems old, Shrek seems new and fresh and clever." Stephen Hunter of the Washington Post gave the film 5 out of 5 stars, saying, "Despite all its high-tech weirdness, it is really that most perdurable of human constructions, a tale told well and true." Joe Baltic of the Sacramento Bee wrote that it isn't so much a fractured spoof of everything Disney, but actually a Monty Python flick for kids of all ages. Andrew Saris of the New York Observer wrote, "What gives Shrek its special artistic distinction is its witty and knowingly sassy dialogue, delivered by vocally charismatic performers whose voices remind us of their stellar screen persona in live-action movies." Lisa Alspector of the Chicago Reader wrote, "This romantic fantasy complicates the roles of Beauty and Beast, making it hard to guess what form a sensitive resolution will take." Joe Morgenstern of the Wall Street Journal wrote, "The charms of Shrek, which is based on the children's book by William Steig, go far beyond in-jokes for adults." John Zabrowski of the Seattle Times gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying, "The The movie is helped immensely by its cast, who carry it through some of the early sluggish scenes. But this is Murphy's movie. Donkey gets most of the good lines, and Murphy hits every one. A mixed review came from Mark Caro of the Chicago Tribune, who gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4 and compared it to Toy Story 2, which he said had a higher in-jokes/laughs ratio without straining to demonstrate its hipness or to evoke heartfelt emotions. On the more negative side, Michael Atkinson of The Village Voice said he was desperately avoiding the risk of even a half second of boredom, and said, "The movie is wall-to-window to door noise, babbling and jokes. The first minute sees the first fart gag, and demographically, it's a hard-sell shotgun spray." Christy Lemire of the Associated Press described Shrek as a 90-minute onslaught of in-jokes, and said while it strives to have a heart, with a message about beauty coming from within, somehow the message rings hollow. Anthony Lane of The New Yorker said, despite the film cunning the rendering of surfaces, there's still something flat and charmless in the digital look, and most of the pleasure rises not from the main romance, but from the quick, incidental gags. There is a moment in Shrek when the despicable Lord Farquaad has the gingerbread man tortured by dipping him into milk. This prepares us for another moment when Princess Fiona's singing voice is so piercing it causes jolly little bluebirds to explode. Making the best of a bad situation, she fries their eggs. This is not your average family cartoon. Shrek is jolly and wicked, filled with sly in-jokes and yet somehow possessing a heart. The movie has been so long in the making at DreamWorks that the late Chris Farley was originally intended to voice the jolly green ogre in the title role. All that work has paid off. The movie is an astonishing visual delight, with animation techniques that seem lifelike and fantastical, both at once. No animated being has ever moved, breathed, or had its skin crawl quite as convincingly as Shrek, and yet the movie doesn't look like a reprocessed version of the real world. It's all made up, right down to, or up to, Shrek's trumpet-shaped ears. Shrek's voice is now performed by Mike Myers, with a voice that's an echo of his fat bastard, the Scotsman with a molasses brogue in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Shrek is an ogre who lives in a swamp surrounded by keep out and beware the ogre signs. He wants only to be left alone, perhaps because he is not such an ogre after all, but merely a lonely creature with an inferiority complex because of his ugliness. He is horrified when the solitude of his swamp is disturbed by a sudden invasion of cartoon creatures who have been banished from Lord Farquaad's kingdom. Voiceovers for animated movies were once, except for the annual Disney classic, quickie jobs that actors took if they were out of work. Now they are starring roles with fat paychecks, and the ads for Shrek use big letters to trumpet the names of Myers, Murphy, Cameron Diaz, Fiona, and John Lithgow, Farquaad. Their vocal performances are nicely suited to the characters, although Myers' infatuation with his Scottish brogue reportedly had to be toned down. Murphy in particular has emerged as a star of the voiceover genre. Much will be written about the movie's technical expertise, and indeed every summer seems to bring another breakthrough on the animation front. After the three-dimensional modeling and shading of Toy Story, the even more evolved Toy Story 2, A Bug's Life, and Ants, and the amazing effects in Dinosaur, Shrek unveils creatures who have been designed from the inside out so that their skin, muscles, and fat move upon their bones instead of seeming like a single unit. They aren't realistic, but they're curiously real. The artistry of the locations and setting is equally skilled, not lifelike but beyond lifelike, in a merry, stylized way. Still, all the craft in the world would not have made Shrek work if the story hadn't been fun and the ogre so lovable. Shrek is not handsome, but he isn't as ugly as he thinks. He's a guy we want as our friend, and he doesn't frighten us but stir our sympathy. He's so immensely likable that I suspect he may emerge as an enduring character, populating sequels and spin-offs. One movie cannot contain him. Shrek is an American media franchise of DreamWorks Animation, loosely based on William Steig's 1990 picture book Shrek. The series primarily focuses on Shrek, a bad-tempered but good-hearted ogre who begrudgingly accepts a quest to rescue a princess, resulting in him finding friends and going on many subsequent adventures in a fairy tale world. It includes 4 animated films: Shrek 2001, Shrek 2, 2004, Shrek the Third, 2007, and Shrek Forever After, 2010, with a fifth film, Shrek 5, currently in production for a 2026 release. A short 4D film, Shrek 4D, which originally was a theme park ride, was released in 2003. Two television specials, the Christmas television special, Shrek the Halls, 2007, and the Halloween television special, Scared Shrekless, 2010, have also been produced. Two spin-off films were made centered around the character Puss in Boots. 2011's Puss in Boots and its sequel, 2022's The Last Wish. Additionally, a stage musical adaptation was made and premiered at Broadway for more than a year, 2008 to 2010. In May 2010, the New York Times described the principal Shrek characters as brilliantly realized and said, nearly a decade after the first Shrek film, they remain as vital and engaging fusions of image, personality, and voice as any characters in the history of animation. The series was a financial success, becoming the 18th highest-grossing film franchise of all time, the second highest-grossing animated franchise, as well one of the highest-grossing media franchises of all time. Film's Shrek, a solitary ogre, is angered when fairy tale creatures are sent to live in his swamp, ordered by Lord Farquaad. He befriends a talking donkey named Donkey, and they set off to meet with Farquaad. The Lord needs Princess Fiona to marry him so he will become the King of Duloc. When Shrek and Donkey visit him, they are forced to rescue her from an enormous fire-breathing dragon named Dragon in exchange for Shrek's swamp being vacated. The dragon turns out to be female, and after a minute or two falls in love with Donkey. Donkey, Shrek, and Fiona escape, and Dragon chases them. Once Shrek and Donkey rescue Fiona, they take her back to Lord Farquaad. Along the way, Shrek begins to fall in love with Fiona. Donkey finds out from Fiona that she is cursed and turns into an ogre at night. The only way the curse can be broken is by true love's first kiss. Fiona and Farquaad have a marriage ceremony, but they are interrupted by Shrek, who tells Fiona he loves her. Donkey and Dragon enter, and Dragon eats Farquaad. Shrek and Fiona kiss, and Fiona is permanently turned into an ogre. Shrek gets his swamp back, and the two marry there. After a karaoke party, the newlyweds set off on their honeymoon. Shrek 2, 2004. Main article, Shrek 2. The second film opens with Prince Charming on a quest to rescue Princess Fiona from the dragon. When he gets there, he finds the wolf from Little Red Riding Hood and the three little pigs in Fiona's bed. He asks the wolf where Fiona is, and the wolf tells him that she is on her honeymoon with Shrek. Once Shrek and Fiona return from their honeymoon, they find Donkey in the swamp, who tells them he and Dragon are going through a rough patch. They then get invited to the land of Far, Far Away by Fiona's parents, who want to bless their marriage. When they arrive, Shrek and Fiona are not what they expected. The fairy godmother and her son, Prince Charming, are trying to break up Shrek's marriage by making Fiona fall in love with Prince Charming. However, it does not work, and Shrek and Fiona stay together. Shrek and Donkey get a new sidekick called Puss in Boots. They have a lengthy quest to search the fairy godmother's cottage to get a love potion. Shrek and Donkey drink the potion, and they become something quite unexpected. Shrek becomes human, and Donkey becomes a horse. Since Shrek drank the potion, it also affected Fiona as she woke up to seeing her human form once again. At the end of the film, King Harold reverts to a frog after being struck with the fairy godmother's magic, and gives Shrek and Fiona his blessing. After Fiona tells Shrek she loves him just the way he is, they revert to ogres. Shrek the Third, 2007. Main article, Shrek the Third. Shrek and Fiona are reluctantly reigning over Far, Far Away during King Harold's prolonged illness. The king promises that if they can find Fiona's cousin Artie, he will make him the next in line, so both Shrek and Fiona would not have to run the country after his death. As Shrek, Donkey, and Puss set off to find Artie, Fiona reveals she is pregnant. Shrek is shocked as he believes he will not be a good father and will ruin his child's life. This is reinforced by his relationship with his own father, where he tried to eat me. After finding Artie, Artie is frightened of being king, and they end up on an island where they meet Artie's former magic teacher, Merlin. Meanwhile, Charming plots to overthrow Artie and become king, but this is foiled by Shrek. The film ends with Shrek and Fiona caring for their newborn ogre triplets. Shrek Forever After, 2010. Main article: Shrek Forever After. Shrek has become a domesticated family ogre, living happily with Princess Fiona and the triplets. Instead of scaring villagers away like he used to, a reluctant Shrek now agrees to autograph pitchforks. Longing for the days when he felt like a real ogre, Shrek is tricked into signing a pact with the smooth-talking dealmaker Rumpelstiltskin. He agrees to trade a day from his childhood in exchange for a day to exist as a real ogre again. However, Shrek suddenly finds himself in a twisted, alternate reality where ogres are hunted, Rumpelstiltskin is king, Puss is obese, and Shrek has never met Donkey or Fiona. Shrek discovers he unknowingly traded the day he was born and will not exist after the day is over. Shrek becomes entangled with an underground resistance of ogres led by Fiona. Rumpelstiltskin places a bounty on Shrek's capture, offering the deal of a lifetime as a reward. The Pied Piper captures most of the resistance, excluding Shrek and Fiona. Shrek, unable to win Fiona's affection, turns himself in and offers to trade his life to free the captured ogres. The recently released ogres go back to free Shrek and Fiona. As the 24 hours are almost up and Shrek lies dying, Fiona kisses him, breaking the deal and reverting everything back to normal. After finding himself back at his triplets' birthday party, where he previously lost his temper and stormed out, Shrek joyfully reunites with his family and friends, realizing he has everything he ever wanted. Puss in Boots films. Puss in Boots, 2011. Main article: Puss in Boots, 2011 film. Puss in Boots is an animated American action comedy film that was released on October 28, 2011. The film is based on and follows the character Puss in Boots on his adventures with Kitty Softpaws and Mastermind Humpty Dumpty. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, 2022. Main article: Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is the sequel to Puss in Boots that was released on December 21, 2022. In November 2012, executive producer Guillermo del Toro said that a couple of drafts for a sequel were already done and that the director Chris Miller wanted to take Puss on an adventure to exotic places. In April 2014, Antonio Banderas, the voice of Puss, said that the work on the sequel had just begun. On June 12, 2014, the movie was titled Puss in Boots 2: 9 Lives and 40 Thieves. On February 26, 2019, it was confirmed that the sequel was still in development, and Bob Persichetti was set to direct the film. In August 2020, the name Puss in Boots: The Last Wish had been trademarked by DreamWorks, revealing the new title of the sequel. In March 2021, Joel Crawford replaced Persichetti as director, having previously helmed DreamWorks' The Croods: A New Age. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was theatrically released on December 21, 2022 by Universal Pictures. The film was originally scheduled to be released on November 2, 2018, but was delayed a month to December 21, 2018 before cancellation. It was also scheduled to be released on September 23, 2022. The story takes place after Shrek Forever After and follows Puss, who has burned all but the last of his 9 lives, on a quest to find the mystical last wish in order to restore his 9 lives. Future: Shrek 5, 2026. Main article: Shrek 5. Following the success of Shrek 2 in May 2004, then DreamWorks Animation CEO Jeffrey Katzenberg revealed that the Shrek story had been outlined into 5 films almost from the beginning. Before the first one was finished, we talked about what the whole story of Shrek is, and each of the chapters answers questions about the first movie and gives us an insight, said Katzenberg. Shrek 3 and 4 are going to reveal other unanswered questions, and finally, in the last chapter, we will understand how Shrek came to be in that swamp when we meet him in the first movie. After the release of Shrek the Third in 2007, Katzenberg announced that the 5th film would be released in 2013. In May 2009, DreamWorks announced that the 4th film's title would be Shrek Forever After, indicating that it would be the last in the Shrek series. Later in 2009, that was confirmed by Bill Damaski, the former head of creative production at D-Way, with him saying, "All that was loved about Shrek in the first film is brought to the final film." Josh Klausner, one of the writers of Shrek Forever After, explained in 2010 the script's evolution. When I first came onto the project, it wasn't supposed to be the final chapter. There were originally going to be 5 Shrek movies. Then, about a year into the development, Jeffrey Katzenberg decided that the story that we'd come up with was the right way for Shrek's journey to end. In February 2014, in an interview with Fox Business, Katzenberg hinted that a 5th film could still be made. "We like to let them have a little bit of time to rest," he said of the characters. "But I think you can be confident that we'll have another chapter in the Shrek series. We're not finished, and more importantly, neither is he." On June 15, 2016, after NBC Universal purchased DreamWorks Animation for $3.8 billion, NBC Universal CEO Steve Burke discussed plans to continue the franchise, as well as other DreamWorks films. In July 2016, The Hollywood Reporter cited sources saying that the 5th film was planned for a 2019 release. In September 2016, Eddie Murphy confirmed that the film was expected to be released in 2019 or 2020, and that the script had been completed. The original story for the film was written by Michael McCullers, based on his own idea, 22. When asked about the script in March 2017, McCullers said it featured a pretty big reinvention for the film series. On November 6, 2018, it was reported by Variety that Chris Meledandri had been tasked to be the executive producer of both Shrek 5 and Puss in Boots 2, with the cast of the previous films potentially returning. In April 2023, Meledandri revealed that a 5th film was still in talks with the original cast, expected to return for. In June 2024, Eddie Murphy revealed that production on the film had commenced in January of the same year. He also stated that the film is expected to be released in 2025. On July 9th, DreamWorks officially announced the release date for the film as July 1st, 2026, with Myers, Murphy, and Diaz returning. Untitled Donkey spin-off film TBA. At the same time that Shrek 5 was revealed to be in development in April 2023, it was revealed that a spin-off film revolving around Donkey was in early talks as well. In June 2024, Eddie Murphy announced that the project was officially greenlit by DreamWorks and stated that it would begin production following the completion of Shrek 5. Short films. Shrek in the Swamp Karaoke Dance Party 2001. Shrek in the Swamp Karaoke Dance Party is a 3-minute musical short film included on home media releases of Shrek. It takes place during the last scene of Shrek, before Shrek and Fiona leave on their honeymoon, with the film's characters performing a medley of modern pop songs. Most of the voice cast from the film reprise their roles, with the exception of Eddie Murphy, who is replaced by Mark Moseley as Donkey. Shrek 4D 2003. Main article Shrek 4D. Shrek 4D, also known as Shrek 3D, Shrek 4D Adventure, Shrek's Never-Before-Seen Adventure, and The Ghost of Lord Farquaad, is a 4D film ride at various theme parks around the world. It premiered in 2003 at Universal Studios Florida and was released on DVD. The short takes place right after the first Shrek film. Lord Farquaad returns from the dead to kidnap Princess Fiona, and it is up to Shrek and Donkey to rescue her. Donkey's Caroling Christmas-tacular, 2010. Donkey's Caroling Christmas-tacular, promoted as Donkey's Christmas Shrek-tacular, is a 5-minute short which was released on December 7, 2010, with the Shrek, the Whole Story box set, and Shrek Forever After. This short takes place in the candy apple, the new version of the poison apple. Donkey suggests everyone sing Christmas carols. Donkey sings, "It's the most wonderful time of the year." Shrek, Fiona, the ogre children, and the army of ogres sing an ogre version of Jingle Bells, such as Bug Cocoon, Lick the Spoon, Try Our Cricket Slurp. Puss in Boots sings Feliz Navidad, although he titles it Fleas Navidad. Then everyone sings Jingle Bell Rock as Fairy Tale Rock. Shrek's Yule Log, 2010. Shrek's Yule Log is a 30-minute short released on December 7, 2010, featured on both the Donkey's Christmas Shrek-tacular DVD and the Shrek Forever After Blu-ray. The short takes place inside Shrek's house, with the fireplace as the only place seen throughout the entire short. Shrek prevents Rumpelstiltskin from dousing the fire. Donkey does the same eye gag, seen from Shrek Forever After. Fiona puts out cookies for Santa, and Puss puts on weight from cookies and cookie dough. Other characters, such as Gingy, Pinocchio, the Three Little Pigs, Cookie, the Ogre Triplets, the Dronkeys, and Pied Piper appear. Thriller Night, 2011. Thriller Night is a 6-minute short film parody of Michael Jackson's music video Thriller. It was directed by Gary Trousdale and released on September 13, 2011, on the Scared Shrekless DVD. It was released on DVD and Blu-ray on August 28, 2012, as a part of Shrek's Thrilling Tales, DreamWorks Spooky Stories. None of the original main voice actors reprised their roles and are replaced by their replacement voice actors, with the exception of Dean Edwards, who reprises Donkey from Scared Shrekless. Deceased characters such as Lord Farquaad, Mongo, Rumpelstiltskin, Fifi, Fairy Godmother, Prince Charming, and King Harold in his frog form appear as zombies. A 3D version of the short was added in October 2011 to the Nintendo Video service for Nintendo 3DS owners. The Pig Who Cried Werewolf, 2011. The Pig Who Cried Werewolf is a 6-minute 3D Halloween short film, directed by Gary Trousdale and released on October 4, 2011, for a limited time, exclusively on the Nintendo Video service on Nintendo 3DS. It was released on DVD and Blu-ray on August 28, 2012, as a part of Shrek's Thrilling Tales, DreamWorks Spooky Stories. The three little pigs find themselves in trouble when they ignore the warning signs of a new neighbor moving in next door who takes on a ferocious form during a full moon. Puss in Boots, The Three Diablos, 2012. Main article, Puss in Boots, The Three Diablos. Puss in Boots, The Three Diablos is a 13-minute animated short film directed by Raman Hui and was released on the DVD and Blu-ray releases of Puss in Boots on February 24, 2012. The short tells a story of Puss in Boots on a mission to recover a princess's stolen ruby from the notorious French thief, the Whisperer. Reluctantly accompanied by three little kittens, the Three Diablos, Puss must tame them before they endanger the mission. Puss in Boots, The Trident, 2023. Puss in Boots, The Trident is a 4-minute animated short film directed by Matt Flynn and was released on the digital release of Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, Collector's Edition on February 21, 2023, and on the 4K, Blu-ray, and DVD releases of Puss in Boots, The Last Wish on February 28. Television and interactive specials. Far, Far Away Idol, 2004. Far, Far Away Idol is an interactive 5-minute short, but with multiple endings, released on November 5, 2004 as an extra on the Shrek 2 DVD and VHS. It is based on American Idol and guest stars Simon Cowell. Taking place right after Shrek 2 ends, the film's supporting characters hold a singing competition, with Shrek, Fiona, and Simon Cowell as the judges. Shrek the Halls, 2007. Main article, Shrek the Halls. Shrek the Halls is a 22-minute Christmas-themed television special, set after the events of Shrek the Third, but before the events of Shrek Forever After. It follows Shrek, who has never celebrated Christmas before, attempting to make the perfect day for his family. It premiered on the American television network ABC on November 28, 2007. Scared Shrekless, 2010. Main article, Scared Shrekless. Scared Shrekless is a 21-minute Halloween-themed television special set after the events of Shrek Forever After. Shrek challenges Donkey, Puss in Boots, and his other fairy tale friends to spend the night in Lord Farquaad's haunted castle, telling scary stories to see who can resist becoming scared and stay the longest. The special premiered on the American television network NBC on October 28, 2010. Puss in Book, Trapped in an Epic Tale, 2017. See also, List of the Adventures of Puss in Boots episodes, Interactive Special, 2017. Puss in Book, Trapped in an Epic Tale is an interactive special developed by DreamWorks Animation Television, which debuted on Netflix in 2017, featuring the character Puss in Boots. It is Netflix's first attempt at interactive television. During the program, the viewer is given points while using their remote control or other device to decide how the narrative should proceed. Television series, The Adventures of Puss in Boots, 2015 to 2018. Main article, The Adventures of Puss in Boots, a television series starring Puss from the Shrek franchise, debuted on Netflix on January 16, 2015. Peacock Kids YouTube channel, formerly known as DreamWorks TV, during 2014-2016, produced several web series, New Shrek, New Puss in Boots, Swamp Talk. These were later released separately on the Peacock website. Production. Despite the advances in computing power over the 2000s decade, the increasing usage of novel techniques like global illumination, physics simulation, and 3D demanded ever more CPU hours to render the films. DreamWorks Animation noticed that every Shrek film took roughly twice the CPU hours than the previous film, and thus labeled this trend as Shrek's Law. Similar to Moore's Law, the Shrek's Law says, the CPU render hours needed to complete production on a theatrical sequel will double compared to the amount of time needed on the previous film. Mediocre. Overall, Shrek is okay. I can see why it was such a huge success, but that doesn't necessarily mean it deserves it. The animation was revolutionary at the time, and the musical score and some of the performances are outstanding. But Eddie Murphy is too much. The comedy is lowbrow, and this film is obsessed with Disney, though it handles this better than some similar films. My favorite fairy tale parody is actually 2005's Hoodwinked. And my favorite DreamWorks movie of all time is The Prince of Egypt. However, even after Shrek, the studio would continue to excel with bigger and better films, even within the Shrek series. Review on May 18, 2001, DreamWorks unveiled Shrek in theaters. The animated satire would go on to gross $484 million globally, launch a slew of sequels, and nab an Oscar for Best Animated Feature at the 74th Academy Awards. The Hollywood Reporter's original review is below. In Shrek, a bunch of smart alecky computer animators totally deconstruct the time-honored, much-beloved fairy tale. Then they mischievously put it back together again to the strains of Neil Diamond's I'm a Believer. A great many people throughout the world will be believers too once Shrek gets loose in theaters. Before opening in the United States, the film will premiere on the Croisette, the first animated feature in competition at the Cannes International Film Festival in 18 years. One remarkable though disconcerting aspect of recent American cinema has been the devolution of live-action features into uninspired mannerism and decadent thrill-seeking, while animation continues to evolve its techniques, themes, and vibrant artistry. However much Shrek might expand the visual palette of computer animation, much more important are the wit and compassion the CG animators at PDI DreamWorks bring to this fractured fairy tale. Shrek is best compared to Dumbo, one of the most charming cartoons made at Disney Studios under Walt Disney's aegis. Both play the tale of the ugly duckling for all of its worth. But instead of a tiny elephant with huge ears, the title character in Shrek is an ogre. Green, ornery, nasty-looking, and foul-smelling, and what's worse, he has terrible table manners. Shrek, played in a droll Cockney accent by Mike Myers, is the epitome of everything a fairy tale hero is not. He hates everybody, he lives apart from society in a swamp, and he would have remained content with such a caste system, with him as its castaway, if a funny thing doesn't happen. Actually, a very funny thing. A pint-sized despot named Lord Farquaad, an imperious John Lithgow, rounds up all the fairy tale critters in his domain and banishes them to Shrek's swamp. His tranquility is thus shattered by blind mice, dancing bears, homeless pigs, a wooden boy with a long nose, and a big bad wolf camped in his bed. But what utterly undoes his existence is a talking donkey, played with side-splitting comic patter by a motor-mouthed Eddie Murphy. The magic of a talking donkey means nothing to the ogre. The magic would be if he could get Donkey to shut up. Against his better judgment, Shrek accepts Donkey as his guide to the kingdom of Duloc, where Farquaad is ensconced in a castle and landscape of pristine cleanliness and anal-retentive orderliness. Here, the animators, many of them ex-Disney cast members, take several well-aimed pot shots at Disney's Magic Kingdom. Shrek and Farquaad then cut a deal. Shrek will rescue Farquaad's princess bride from the faraway lair of a fire-belching dragon, and Farquaad will give him back his swamp. Shrek and Donkey, whom Shrek can't seem to lose, journey to the dragon's forbidden fortress, surrounded by a boiling lava moat. The first surprise comes when the dragon turns out to be the female of the species, and she falls madly in love with Donkey. Then Princess Fiona, a spirited Cameron Diaz, turns out to be a very modern princess with very specific ideas about how her rescuer should behave. She even, in a scene possibly added after the international success of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, displays the martial arts agility of Zhang Ziyi. The film is filled with puns, anachronistic wisecracks, and sly naughtiness. Sitting down to dinner, Shrek digs wax from a trumpet-like ear and lights it to create a table candle. A gingerbread man being tortured by Lord Farquaad growls, "Eat me." The music leans toward the modern, too. Put it this way, when was the last time you heard a Leonard Cohen song in a cartoon? The film's chief problem is a structural one. Once Shrek and Donkey breach the dragon's dark castle and remove the princess, nothing really opposes our hero's progress. The ogre and Fiona must come to terms with their mutual appearances and realize that looks can deceive. But the characters are never again in any real jeopardy, which undermines the dramatic tension. Shrek represents a considerable technical advance over DreamWorks' first computer animation effort, Ants, by introducing humans into the mix. The humans' hair and muscle tissue are almost too real when compared with the more cartoony fairy tale creatures. But the fantasy worlds conjured up by these computer magicians are brilliantly surreal, with tiny, tiny details coming alive in unexpected and delightful ways. Kirk Honeycutt, originally published May 7, 2001. Have animated films become the most consistently good movies? It's not just the Disney Renaissance either. Other studios are releasing great films that happen to be animated. Think about the most recent ventures, the Toy Story films, Titan A.E., Chicken Run, The Prince of Egypt, Tarzan, The Iron Giant. These are all great films, and now you can add Shrek to that list. Shrek is a delightful and utterly wicked comedy that spoofs the fairy tale tradition. There's our hero, Shrek, voice of Mike Myers, but he's no knight in shining armor. He's an ogre. There's his faithful sidekick and trusty steed, Donkey, voice of Eddie Murphy, who is obviously a donkey. There's the beautiful Princess Fiona, voice of Cameron Diaz, with more to her than meets the eye. Then there's the evil Lord Farquaad, voice of John Lithgow, whose name will undergo as many different pronunciations as is allowed in a PG-rated movie. Without giving too much away, the story places Shrek on two quests. First off, he must get his swampland back from Farquaad, who has turned it into a reservation for fairy tale creatures. The opening involves people turning in the creatures for a reward. I'm not sure why, but it's funny to see Pinocchio trying to lie his way out of being turned in, and it's hilarious later to see him constantly dancing jigs. Donkey is one of the creatures being turned over, but he escapes and runs into Shrek, who scares off the pursuers. After much convincing, Shrek allows Donkey to spend the night outside his home. Later that night, his land is overrun by fairy tale characters. This obviously upsets Shrek, who has decided to live out his life alone, so he and Donkey travel to see Farquaad. There's a great gag involving a man dressed in a large Farquaad head who follows the roped-off line to escape Shrek. Once Shrek arrives, there's another great sequence that imitates professional wrestling. Before this, there's a great gag involving the gingerbread man being tortured by Farquaad. There are a lot of great gags. Anyway, back to the plot. Once Shrek is named champion of the tournament, Farquaad makes a deal with him. If he rescues Princess Fiona from her tower and Dragon Guard, Farquaad will give him back his land. So begins Shrek and Donkey's second quest. On their way, we see the beginning of the film's main theme. Shrek explains how an ogre is like an onion because they both have many layers. Donkey's response, "Why can't you be more like a cake? They have a lot of layers too." It's apparent that there is more to Shrek than his physical appearance, and the filmmakers and Myers have done an outstanding job of making him a wholly sympathetic character. The themes of beauty is in the eyes of the beholder and true beauty is on the inside are pulled off without ever seeming cloying and actually end up being quite touching. All of the voice talent here is well done. Lithgow's voice adds the necessary diabolical twinge to Farquaad, and Diaz gives the sense of a tough exterior hiding something just below the surface. The standout, though, is Murphy, who has already done some voiceover work before in Mulan. Here, however, Murphy is given a bigger task than just spouting off one-liners. He must ramble on continuously without ever becoming annoying or repetitious. He succeeds brilliantly. It is no exaggeration saying that this is one of his best performances. The technology on exhibit in Shrek is an ever-evolving one. With each new film that displays computer animation, the level of sophistication grows. I remember the first time I saw Al in Toy Story 2 and thinking how amazing the detail was. For Shrek, the animators have created Princess Fiona, who plays a much larger part than Al did, and the results are all the more amazing. Farquaad, on the other hand, is animated in a completely different style. He looks like a giant leap in creating cartoon characters. It is the perfect choice. Despite what many may think, computer animation leaves as much, if not more, room for individual style as hand-drawn animation. I just wonder where the next step will lead us. Shrek is a wonderful film. It is not as much a kids' movie as much as it is a family movie. And it is not as much a family movie as it is a comedy for all audiences. It has a diabolical sense of humor and a really big heart. This is one of those rare family films that an older audience will understand and appreciate more than their younger counterparts. And isn't that all that matters? In this blog post, we will review the animated film Shrek. If you have not seen it and are not keen on spoilers, please revisit this post after watching it. If you don't care to watch it but are interested in learning about this movie and my opinions, what are you waiting for? Let's dive into this review. DreamWorks Pictures' wonderful, whimsical Shrek proves to be the latest family film to live up to its billing. With its blend of high adventure, light romance, and double-layered dialogue, which will take on a slightly different meaning for the under and over 12 crowd, Shrek is capable of enthralling both children and their parents. In fact, this movie is so good that adults unaccompanied by offspring can venture into a theater without having to dress up in a disguise. Shrek is not a guilty pleasure for sophisticated moviegoers. It is, purely and simply, a pleasure. When it comes to computer-generated motion pictures, Shrek has once more raised the bar, and this one was already at an impressively high level in the wake of Toy Story 2 and Dinosaur. Yet Shrek outshines them both, boasting the most impressive detail and most amazingly rendered creatures of any motion picture in its class. And although the human beings still don't look entirely realistic, they're getting close. In fact, this is the first major computer-animated film in which human beings have had a significant role. They played secondary parts in the 2 Toy Stories, and their appearance is such that we have no more trouble accepting them than we do in traditional animated fare. Shrek is essentially Beauty and the Beast with a few clever twists. In the quirky, irreverent way that it views fairy tales and their conventions, it's not unlike The Princess Bride. Fans of those 2 stories will find much to like here. And both kids and adults can play a game of guess how many famous faces we can see. There are certainly a large number of cameos: Pinocchio, a possessed toy, Snow White and the 7 Dwarves, Cinderella, the Big Bad Wolf, the 3 Little Pigs, the Gingerbread Man, the 3 Blind Mice, the Mirror, as in Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, Who's the Fairest of Them All, and many others. Our protagonist is an ogre named Shrek, voice of Mike Myers, using a Scottish accent. Except for scaring off the odd knight who comes in search of his hideout, Shrek leads a relatively peaceful life until the day that he stumbles into Donkey, voice of Eddie Murphy. Donkey is fleeing soldiers who are rounding up all the fairy tale creatures with the intent of resettling them. Unfortunately for Shrek, the local landholder, Lord Farquaad, John Lithgow, has decided to deport them to Shrek's swamp. This causes the irritated ogre, accompanied by his new best friend Donkey, to head for the city of Duloc, where Farquaad holds court. There, he makes a deal with the noble. In return for getting back his swamp, Shrek will perform a quest and rescue Princess Fiona, Cameron Diaz, from the tower where she is held prisoner. The catch: she's guarded by a fire-breathing dragon. Farquaad wants Fiona for his wife. He chose her over Cinderella and Snow White, and figures that the ogre might be his best chance to rescue her. But what he doesn't count on, and what Shrek doesn't expect, is that the Beauty and the Beast will develop feelings for each other. Many of Shrek's funniest lines, like "a castle that big must mean he's compensating for something," will go over younger viewers' heads, but there are still plenty that won't. "I'm going to save my ass," referring to Donkey. The screenplay was obviously written with all age groups in mind. Shrek is not on such a lofty plane that children will feel as if they're missing something, but it isn't lobotomized in a way that will insult the intelligence of older viewers. As impressive as the visuals are, and they are very impressive, Shrek wouldn't be the movie it is without a quartet of effective vocal performances. As this kind of animation becomes more prevalent, the importance of choosing the right voices will need equal care and attention. Voices help to define the characters, and a bad choice can do irreparable damage. Just as not all silent stars were suitable for talkie roles, so not all live-action actors can do vocal performances. Fortunately, Shrek has 4 capable actors. First and foremost is Mike Myers, who is known as a vocal chameleon. Without seeing his name in the opening credits, you'd never know it was him. John Lithgow plays Farquaad as nasty and short-sighted, but not really evil, which makes a pleasant change from the usual animated villain. Eddie Murphy shows that a real comic genius can get laughs without relying on his own facial expressions and body language. Murphy's donkey is one of the funniest characters he has brought to the screen. Here, he improves upon what he did in Mulan. Finally, Cameron Diaz's princess is equal parts sugar and vinegar. She believes in true love and Prince Charming, but like her Charlie's Angels alter ego, she's not afraid to do a little Matrix-style butt-kicking. The interplay between Shrek and Princess Fiona is sweet and tender, while the exchanges between the ogre and the ass are often barbed and subversively funny. Like The Princess Bride, Shrek breaks with convention, but not so far that viewers will be put off by it. And while there is a happy ending, as there must be in any fairy tale, no matter how unconventional, it's not necessarily the conclusion that many people will be expecting, at least up until the 2/3 point, when the movie reveals its hand. First-time co-directors Andrew Adamson and Vicky Jenson, he has worked as a visual supervisor on other films, including the 2 Joel Schumacher Batmans, this is her first credit, have crafted a movie to be proud of, and one that will hopefully receive a lot of attention, even during the crowded summer season. Shrek is easily one of the year's most magical experiences. Shrek generated more than $420 million in revenue for DreamWorks on DVD and VHS and has sold more than 21 million copies of the 23 million shipped by January 2069 worldwide. More than 10 million Shrek DVDs have been sold by that 69. A 3D version of the film was released on Blu-ray 3D by Paramount Home Entertainment on December 1st, 2010, along with its sequel 76, and a regular 2D Blu-ray box set of the series was released 6 days later, 77, in commemoration of the film's 20th anniversary. An Ultra HD Blu-ray edition was released on May 11, 2021 by Universal Pictures Home Entertainment 78 box office. Shrek opened on around 6,000 screens, 79 across 3,587 theaters. 811 of them showed the film digitally, 81. This was the first time that DreamWorks had shown one of its films digitally. 82. The film earned $116 million on its first day and $142 million on its opening weekend, topping the box office for the weekend and averaging 185 from 3,587 theaters, 83 in its second weekend due to the Memorial Day weekend holiday. The film gains 3% to $425 million and won $552 million over the 4-day weekend, resulting in an overall 30% gain, 84. Despite this, the film finished in second place behind Pearl Harbor and had an average of $150.24 from expanding to 623 sites, 84 in its third weekend. The film retreated 34% to do $28.2 million for a $17,695 average from expanding to 3,061 theaters, 85 by mid-June 2001. Shrek became the top-grossing movie of the year domestically, defeating The Mummy Returns 86. The film closed on December 6, 2001 after grossing $267.7 million domestically along with $216.7 million overseas for a worldwide total of $484.4 million, 5 produced on a $160 million budget. The film was a huge box office smash 5 and is the 4th highest grossing film of 2001. 87. Shrek became the highest grossing animated film ever to be released in Australia, passing the mark set by The Lion King in 1994. 488 in the United Kingdom. Shrek regained the top spot at the British box office after being beaten Lara Croft Tomb Raider, earning a $12 million since its opening in the UK. 89. Critical response. In addition to being an instant box office success, Shrek received wide critical acclaim. 88% of 2011 professional reviews of the film on the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes are positive, with an average rating of 78/10. The website's critical consensus reads, while simultaneously embracing and subverting fairy tales, the irreverent Shrek also manages to tweak Disney's nose, provide a moral message to children, and offer viewers a funny, fast-paced ride. 91 Metacritic assigns Shrek a weighted average score of 84 out of 100, based on 34 critics, indicating universal acclaim. 92 audiences, pulled by CinemaScore, gave the film an average grade of A and a plus to F scale. Roger Ebert praised the film, giving it 4 stars out of a possible 4, and describing it as jolly and wicked-filled, with sly and jokes, and yet somehow possessing a heart. 94 USA Today's Susan Dula Sexina praised Eddie Murphy's performance, stating it gives the comic performance of his career, aided by sensational digital artistry as he braves for the slightly neurotic Motormouth. 95. Richard School of Time also enjoyed Murphy's role, stating no one has ever made a funnier jackass of himself than Murphy. 96. Peter Ruhr of New York Magazine liked the script, also stating the animation, directed by Andrew Adamson and Vicky Jenson, is often on the same wriggly-giggly level as the script. Although the more human characters, such as Princess Fiona and Lord Farquaad, are less interesting than the animals and creatures a common pie fall in animated films of all types. 97. Peter Travers of Rolling Stone wrote, Shrek is a world-class charmer that could even seduce the Academy when it hands out the first official animation Oscar next year. 98. James Berardinelli of Real Views gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4, saying Shrek is not a guilty pleasure for sophisticated moviegoers. It is purely and simply a pleasure. 99. Kenneth Turan of the Los Angeles Times wrote, the witty, fractured fairy tale Shrek has a solid base of clever writing. 100. Lisa Schwar, BL of Entertainment Weekly, gave the film an S, saying a kind of palace coupe, a shout of defiance, and a coming of age for DreamWorks. 101. Jay Bohr of the Orlando Sentinel wrote, it's a pleasure to be able to report that the movie both captures and expands upon the book's playful spirit of deconstruction. 102. St. Rosen of the Denver Post wrote, DreamWorks Pictures again proves a name to trust for imaginative, funny animated movies that delight kids and adults equally. 103. Susan Stark of the Detroit News gave the film 4 out of 4 stars, saying swift, sweet, irreverent, rangy, and as spirited in the writing and voice work as it is splendid in design. 1004. Jamie Bernard of the New York Daily News gave the film 4 out of 4 stars, saying the brilliance of the voice work, script, direction, and animation all serve to make Shrek an adorable, infectious work of true sophistication. 105. Rene Rodriguez gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, calling it a gleefully fractured fairy tale that never becomes cynical or crass. 106. Elvis Mitchell of the New York Times gave the film 4 out of 5 stars, saying beating up on the irritatingly dainty Disney trademarks is nothing new. It's just that it has rarely been done with the demolition derby zest of Shrek. 107. William State, the author of the original book, and his wife Jean Stagg also enjoyed the film, stating, we all went sort of expecting to hate it, thinking, what has Hollywood done to it? But we loved it. We were afraid it would be too sickeningly cute, and instead Bill just thought they did a wonderful, witty job of it. 108. John Anderson of Newsday wrote the kind of movie that will entertain everyone of every age and probably for ages to come. 109. Jay Carr of the Boston Globe wrote, in an era when much on film seems old, Shrek seems new and fresh and clever. 110. Stephen Hunter of the Washington Post gave the film 5 out of 5 stars, saying despite all its high-tech weirdness, it is really that most parable of human constructions, a tale told well and true. 11 Joe Ballack of the Sacramento Bee wrote that it isn't so much a fractured spoof of everything Disney, but actually a monopathon flick for kids of all ages. 110. Andrew Saris of the New York Observer wrote, what gives Shrek its special artistic distinction is its witty and knowingly sassy dialogue, delivered by vocally charismatic performers whose voices remind us of their stellar screen person. In live-action movies. 112. Lisa Al Spector of the Chicago Reader wrote, this romantic, Fantasy complicates the roles of beauty and beast, making it hard to guess what form a sensitive resolution will take. 13. Joe Morin of the Wall Street Journal wrote The Charms of Shrek, which is based on the children's book by William Stagg, Go Far Beyond in Jokes for Adults, 114. John Zabrowski of the Seattle Times gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying, "The movie is helped immensely by its cast, who carry it through some of the early sluggish scenes. But this is Murphy's movie donkey gets most of the good lines, and Murphy hits everyone 115. A mixed review came from Mark Carroll of the Chicago Tribune, who gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4, and compared it to Toy Story 2, which he said had a higher in jokes laws ratio, without straining to demonstrate its hipness or to evoke heartfelt emotions. 116 on the more negative side. Michael Atkinson of The Village Voice said he was desperately avoiding the risk of even a half second of boredom and said the movie is wall-to-window to door noise, babbling, and jokes. The first minute sees the first fart gag, and demographically, it's a Hardell shotgun. Spray 117, Christy Lemmy of the Associated Press described Shrek as a 90-minute onslaught of in-jokes, and said while it strives to have a heart with a message about beauty, coming from within, somehow the message rings hollow. 110, Anthony Lane of The New Yorker said, despite the film cunning, the rendering of surfaces, there's still something flat and charmless in the digital look, and most of the pleasure rises not from the main romance, but from the quick incidental gags. 118 accolades. At the 74th Academy Awards, Shrek won the first ever Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, beating Monsters, Inc. and Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. 119. It was also the first animated film to be nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, but lost to A Beautiful Mind. Entertainment Weekly put it on its end of the decade best of list, saying Prince Charming so last millennium this decade. Fairy tale fans and Princess Fiona fell for a fat and flatulent ogre. Now that's like progress. 124. It was also nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. 1251-26 Shrek was also nominated for 6 BAFTA awards, including the BAFTA Award for Best Film. Eddie Murphy became the first actor to ever receive a BA nomination for a voiceover performance. The film was also nominated for Best Visual Effects, Best Sound, Best Film Music, and won the BAFTA Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. 127 Shrek was not nominated for a dozen Annie Awards from IFA Hollywood and W8 Annies, including Best Animated Feature and Outstanding Individual Achievement for Directing in an Animated Feature Production. 128 in June 2008. The American Film Institute revealed its 10 Top 10, the best 10 films in 10 classic American film genres after pulling over 500 people from the creative community. Shrek was acknowledged as the 8th best film in the anim genre and the only non-Pixar film in the top 10. 129A130. Shrek was also ranked 2nd in a Channel 4 poll of the 100 greatest family films, losing out on the top spot to E.T. the Extraterrestrial. 1031 in 25. Shrek came 6th in Channel 4's 100 greatest cartoons poll, behind The Simpsons, Tom and Jerry, South Park, Toy Story, and Family Guy. 132. In November 2009, the character Lord Farad was listed. Now 14 in Axe Top 15 Fantasy Villains. 133 in 26. It was ranked 3rd on Bravo's 100 Funniest Films list. 134. The film's title character was awarded his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in May 2010. Cultural impact. The New York Times retrospectively described the film as a beloved offbeat fairy tale whose characters and jokes continue to permeate culture, reaching another generation of fans. 90 previous films and TV shows such as Fractured Fairy Tales and The Princess Bride have parodied the traditional fairy tale. 1370. When Year and 38 Shrek had a significant impact that influenced a later generation of mainstream animated films. 138 receiving recognition for being one of the most influential from the Tubin. 137, particularly after Shrek 2 animated film began to incorporate more pop culture references and end film musical numbers. 138, such elements can be seen in films like Robots, Chicken Little, and Do. 138. It also inspired a number of computer animated films which also spoofed fairy tales or other related story genres, often including adult-oriented humor. most of which were not nearly as successful as Shrek, such as Chicken, Little Happily, and Ever After, Igor Winked, and Enchanted 138 in 2020. The United States Library of Congress selected Shrek to be preserved in the National Film Registry. Game adaptations of the film have been published on various game console platforms. Hassle at the Castle 22 Shrek Extra Large 22 Shrek Super Party 2002 and Shrek Super Lamb 2005 140. Shrek was also included as a bonus unlockable character. In the video game, Tony Hawk's Underground 22441 in 2003 Dark Horse Comics released a 3-issue miniseries comic book adaptation of Shrek, which was written by Mark Ear, and the issues were later compiled into a trade paperback 142A. Musical version based on the film, with music by G9 Tor and a book and lyrics by David Lindsay AAR, opened on Broadway on December 14, 2008 and closed January 3, 2010. Running for a total of 441 performances, 143. It starred Brian Darcy James in the title role, Sutton Foster as Princess Fiona, Christopher Sieber as Lord Farquaad, Daniel Breaker as Donkey, and John Tartaglia as Pinocchio. 143 The Broadway. Production was recorded and released on DVD, Blu-ray, and digital media. North American tour opened July 25, 2010 in Chicago, 143, a London production. Opened in the West End on June 7, 147. The musical received many Tony Award nominations and won the 29 Tony Award for Best Costume Design. It received 5 Laurence Olivier Award nominations, including Best New Musical, 148 a shot. For Shot fan remake titled Shrek, we're told was released through 3G Industries on November 29, 2018. The project was a collaboration of 200 filmmakers and mixes live action, hand-drawn animation, flash animation, CGI, and various other art forms to recreate the film. The film is available on YouTube for free sequels and spin-offs. 3 sequels were released over the years: the Oscar-nominated Shrek 2 in 24, Shrek 3 in 27, and Shrek Forever After. In 2010, Shrek 2 was the only one to receive similar acclaim from critics. Though all 3 sequels were commercially successful, Shrek the Halls 2007 and Scared Shrekless 2010 were released as holiday-themed short films. A spin-off prequel film entitled Puss in Boots, centered on the titular character's life before his debut in Shrek 2, was released in 2011, while a sequel titled Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and set after the events of Shrek Forever After was released in 22/56. A 5th feature film was originally planned during the development of Shrek Forever After, but the idea was later abandoned by DreamWorks Animation CEO Jeffrey Kenberg 157-156, leading up to NBI Universal's planned acquisition of DreamWorks Animation in 2016. It was announced that a 5th Shrek film would be released in 2019. 158 on November 6, 2018, Variety reported that Chris Melandre had been tasked to reboot both Shrek and Puss in Boots, with the original cast potentially returning to reprise their roles 159 and 160. While cast members reported that a script was completed for a 5th Shrek film, development stalled, and future plans have yet to be officially announced. Shrek movie review. There is a moment in Shrek when the despicable Lord Quad has the gingerbread man tortured by dipping him into milk. This prepares us for another moment when Princess Fiona's singing voice is so piercing it causes jolly little bluebirds to explode, making the best of a bad situation she fries their eggs. This is not your average family cartoon. Shrek is jolly and wicked, filled with sly and jokes, and yet somehow possessing a heart. The movie has been so long in the making, at DreamWorks, that the late Chris Farley was or originally intended to voice the Jolly Green Ogre in the title role. All that work has paid off. The movie is an astonishing visual delight, with animation techniques that seem lifelike and fantastical both at once. No animated being has ever moved, breathed, or had its skin crawl quite as convincingly as Shrek, and yet the movie doesn't look like a reprocessed version of the real world. It's all made up right down to or up to Shrek's trumpet-shaped ears. Shrek's voice is now performed by Mike Myers, with a voice that's an echo of his fat bastard, the Scotsman, with a molasses brogue in Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me. Shrek is an ogre who lives in a swamp surrounded by keep out and beware the ogre signs. He wants only to be left alone, perhaps because he is not such an ogre after all. but merely a lonely creature with an inferiority complex because of his ugliness. He is horrified when the solitude of his swamp is disturbed by a sudden invasion of cartoon creatures who have been banished from Lord Farad's kingdom. Many of these creatures bear a curious correspondence to Disney characters who are in the public domain. The three little pigs turn up along with the three bears, the three blind mice, Tinkerbell, the big bad wolf, and Pinocchio later when Farquaad seeks a bride. The magic mirror gives him three choices. Cinderella Snow White, she lives with 7 men, but she's not easy. And Princess Fiona, he chooses the beauty who has not had the title role in a Disney animated feature. No doubt all of this, and a little dig at Disney World, were inspired by feelings DreamWorks partner Jeffrey Katzenberg has nourished since his painful departure from Disney. But the elbow in the ribs is more playful than serious. Farquaad is said to be inspired by Disney chief Michael Eisner, but I don't see a resemblance, and his short stature corresponds not to the tall Acer, but well to the diminutive Kenberg. The plot involves Lord Farad's desire to wed the Princess Fiona, and his reluctance to slay the dragon that stands between her and would-be suitors. He hires Shrek to attempt the mission, which Shrek is happy to do, providing the loathsome fairy tale creatures are banished and his swamp returned to its dismal solitude on his mission. Shrek is joined by a donkey named the Donkey, whose running commentary voiced by Eddie Murphy provides some of the movie's best laughs. The trick isn't that he talks. Shrek observes the trick is to get him to shut up. The expedition to the castle of the princess involves a suspension bridge above a flaming abyss, and the castle's interior is piled high with the bones of the dragon's previous challengers. When Shrek and the donkey get inside, there are exuberant actions, scenes that whirl madly through interior spaces, and revelations about the dragon no one could have guessed, and all along the way asides and puns and jokes and contemporary references and countless references to other movies. Voiceovers for animated movies were once, except for the annual Disney classic quickie jobs that actors took if they were out of work. Now they are starring roles with fat paychecks, and the ads for Shrek use big letters to trumpet the names of Myers, Murphy, Cameron, Das, Fiona, and John Lithgow. Farad, their vocal performances are nicely suited to the characters. Although Myers' infatuation with his Scottish brogue reportedly had to be toned down, Murphy, in particular, has emerged as a star of the voiceover genre. Much will be written about the movie's technical expertise, and indeed, every summer seems to bring another breakthrough on the animation front after the three-dimensional modeling and shading of Toy Story, the even more evolved Toy Story 2: A Bug's Life, and Ants, and the amazing effects in Dinosaur. Shrek unveils creatures who have been designed from the inside out so that their skin, muscles, and fat move upon their bones. Instead of seeming like a single unit, they aren't realistic, but they're curiously real. The artistry of the locations and setting is equally skilled, not lifelike, but beyond lifelike. In a merry, stylized way, still all the craft in the world would not have made Shrek work if the story hadn't been fun, and the ogre so lovable. Shrek is not handsome, but he isn't as ugly as he thinks. He's a guy we want as our friend, and he doesn't frighten us but stir our sympathy. He's so immensely likable that I suspect he may emerge as an enduring character populating sequels and spin-offs. One movie cannot contain him. Other information about with this film. Shrek is an instant animated classic, rudely sending up even the most beloved fairy tale traditions, while at the same time effectively embodying them. This spirited and often very funny lark accomplishes something that most films in the bygone Hollywood studio era used to do, but is remarkably rare in today's world of niche markets. It offers entertainment equally to viewers from 4 to 104. This story of an ogre's odyssey, from contented oblivion to unexpected love, will make out like a Prince Charming wherever it bonanza for DreamWorks theatrically and forever at after and home viewing markets, playing equally effectively as a lively romp for kids and an enormously clever comedy for adults. Shrek is both simple and sophisticated, hip without being smug or condescending. It's also a film for animation fans to cherish, as well as one that non-enthusiasts can enjoy. On May 12th, P will become just the 5th animated film to be shown in competition at the Cannes Film Festival. After the late 40s, early 50s, Disney features make music, Dumbo and Peter Pan in the 1973. French production, La Plan Sauvage, Fantastic Planet, shaking the narrative, and stylistic cobwebs from the form standing every fairy tale convention on its head and landing some excellent shots at Disney for good measure. The picture scores on every front. The writing is smart, the vocal performances are game, and the relatively lifelike look is stunningly realized, making for the best-looking computer-animated feature-to-date screenplay by the team of Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio. Aladdin, the mark of Zorro Joe Stillman, Bees, and Butthead Do America and Roger Schulman Balto, is based on a short 1990 illustrated children's book by William Stagg that chronicled in very simple terms a horrible ogre's journey to a castle where he wins the hand of an equally ugly princess. There was nothing more to it than that. So it's a conservative estimate to venture that at least 95% of the inspiration for what's on screen came from the script writers who have let their imaginations go in coming up with characters, subplots, relationships, gags, intrigues, and flights of fancy that have no seeds in the book. First major sign of the extensive entry to come is the decision of the pint-sized bigwig Lord Farad, voiced by John Lithgow, to round up familiar fairy tale characters and banish them to the squalid swampland where lives the area's conspicuous outcast Shrek. Mike Myers, a singularly unappealing rotund fellow with green skin and the foulest breath, Shrek takes pleasure in his solitary ways and much resents the intrusion of such squatters as the three blind mice, Pinocchio, the three bears, the seven dwarfs, the big bad wolf, and many others. For his part, the vain and imperious Farquaad wants to trade in all his famous minions, who formerly resided in a hilariously designed Disneyal castle, complete with whom will finally make him a king. To this end, Farquaad has retained the snow white magic mirror, which offers him in TV game show style 3 very appetizing candidates to choose from: Cinderella, Snow White, or Bachelorette #3A. Certain Princess Fiona, after the mighty ogre and his buddy donkey Eddie Murphy defeat Lord Farquaad's favorites in a tournament using a tag team wrestling style that kids will love. Farad agrees to move the fairy tailors off Shrek's land if the latter will be his knight and bring Princess Fiona down from her distant tower to become his queen. Reluctantly, Shrek agrees, launching a journey that leads him in donkey to a scary castle surrounded by a lava-filled moat, guarded by a fire-breathing dragon, and festooned with the skeletons of every knight who has previously attempted to snatch Fiona from her seclusion. None of these threats phases the insouciant Shrek, but he meets unexpected resistance from Fiona herself. Cameron, that's a beautiful, feisty young lady who has definite ideas about what her knight in shining armor ought to be. Like, I'm supposed to be rescued by my true love, not an ogre, she objects as Shrek attempts to lead her from captivity. Meanwhile, fearful but sassy donkey has come in for quite a surprise, finding to his dismay that the enormous dragon has quickly developed lustful feelings for him, escaping in exciting fashion from the castle. The new threesome head back for Lord Farad's domain. Fiona, who not only sounds but looks amazingly like Cameron Dye, continues to show her bossy, opinionated colors, but Shrek, to his astonishment, begins falling in love with her. It's as impossible a match as Donkey and the Dragon, quite out of the question, until Donkey makes a late discovery that reveals that Fiona may have more in common with Shrek than immediately meets the dramatic climax involving a huge wedding ceremony between Farad and Fiona that is interrupted. The graduate style by Shrek is capped by an enormously satisfying final twist. Fine jokes and reversals of expectations fill the journey homeward, where the film most clearly reveals its charming small debts to such timeless classics as Don Cote, The Wizard of Oz, and Beauty and the Beast, among others. One of the funniest bits has Princess Fiona singing a Disney-style duet with a bluebird until the chirping creature suddenly explodes when Fiona hits a piercing high note. Only false note in the entire picture comes when Fiona accosted by a strangely French-accented misser. Robin Hood makes some Matrix scouching tiger-type martial arts moves. Bit feels like a sop to tastes of the moment and is the element that will first appear to date the film in years to come. Constant dazzlement, the images all but leaping off the screen against the brilliantly designed, exceptionally vivid backgrounds. The characters, human and animal alike, appear realistic and highly expressive without being photographically. So the fine line between naturalism and stylization has been walked by the large team working under first-time directors Andrew Adamson, a veteran visual effects supervisor, and Vicky, an art director and storyboard artist, endowing Shrek with a mild Irish brogue. Myers brings abundant drollery and vocal appeal to the physically repugnant title character, which implicitly lends weight to the underlying theme of beauty coming from the inside, much as did in his previous animated outing as Mushu the Dragon in Mulan. Murphy provides Donkey with a jive-talking motor mouth. Some of his riffs are genuinely amusing, but the routine threatens to become a bit much at times. Daz's readings are energetic and will film Fiona a medieval Charlie's Angels candidate. And Lithgow makes the vertically short-changed Farquaad imposing without undamlo drama. Outstanding score by Harry Greggs on Williams and John Powell Ant's Chicken Rune. It's embedded by a collection of eclectic, shrewdly chosen pop tunes all used to lively effect. This film, directed by Andrew Adamson, Vicky Jenson, written by Ted Elliott, Terry Rossio, Joe Stillman. Roger Schulman, based on Shrek by William Stack, produced by Aron Warner. John H. Williams, Jeffrey Kenberg, starring Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Camerons. John Lithgow, directed by Sim Evan Jones, music by Harry Gregson Williams. John Powell, production companies DreamWorks Animation, PDD DreamWorks, distributed. Pictures, release dates April 22, 2001 in Man Village Theater, May 18, 2001 in United States, running time 90 minutes, country United States, language English, budget $160 million, box office $409.98 million. So guys, this is their review of Shrek movie and some information about it. How do you like our today's video? Please let us know by commenting, and if you like this video, please like.